Hey guys, it's Stewart Breeding with Studio 2. Welcome to the first in a long line of vlogs or video blogs that we hope to be doing here over the next couple of weeks. And this is in response to a lot of questions that I get with both our clients and Facebook posts, people really around the world that I've had an opportunity to work with. And a lot of people still struggling, trying to figure out how they can get in the best shape they possibly can, especially in a world and an industry that is just so confusing between the fitness industry and the nutrition or weight loss industry. I think people are really challenged. So we're going to try to bring as much science into this conversation as we possibly can, along with some real practical, in the trenches, field tested feedback that we know categorically is working for people. So by and large, I wanted to start this video with the number one question that we get the most of, which is, bar none, how do I lose fat and put on muscle? I get asked that probably about 15-20 times a day, and unfortunately the answer is just not as easy as a lot of the gimmicks and advertisements that you see probably right underneath me on the next Facebook post. It is quite extensive and individualized is the key word here. So I want to look at it today from a couple of dimensions. I will go ahead and tell you that this video is probably going to be a little long. So I recommend that you take your time with it if you're interested in all and looking at it. I would recommend breaking it up in 2 or 3 sections so you can digest a little bit at a time. I think it's great for people who are trying to get in the best shape of their life, and probably a lot of trainers in the industry hopefully will derive some benefit from this ongoing conversation. And by all means, I love any feedback. Please, questions, comments. If you don't buy into what I'm saying, great. Challenge me on it. Whatever you want to bring to the table. So I just kind of want to start it with, the name of this blog was "Exercise Can Make You Fatter." So this is a hard one to digest for most people, and it is indeed very true. And it's true on a couple of different levels, and we'll kind of work our way into both of them. So I think I want to start with, we've spent the last 3 years extensively studying this question, and my practice has been solely based around how can I get people leaner and increase their muscle tissue at the same time. And we spent a lot of time doing beta testing, field testing. We've worked with several hundred clients doing our metabolic testing, and also bringing in the most accurate body fat testing processes that we can, while offering unique fitness and nutrition prescription to every individual. And along the way, we've learned quite a bit and seen quite a bit. And I think the easiest way to start this is going back in time, back to when I owned a personal training studio called Focus Fitness. By and large, in Nashville, the 4th most obese state in America, you have predominantly in the personal training industry people that are trying to lose weight. And 7 out of 10 clients that came into the facility were weight loss clients. And what I was seeing, by and large, was pretty much the same thing over and over, which was the first 8 to 12 weeks we're seeing lots of gains. They're losing weight, they're feeling great, they're getting stronger. And then slowly but surely what we would see is that would start to change. The second 12-week cycle, the third 12-week cycle, things were getting harder and harder. And at that time, 3-4 years ago, I didn't have the technology that we have today that we'll talk a lot more about in other blogs. So I was no different than everybody else that's personal training without that technology. We were just making random guesses I mean, that's just the reality. That's what's happening out there. People are just guessing at what kind of fitness intensity and what kind of nutrition intensity you really need. They don't know. Without testing, they're guessing. So that wasn't good enough for me anymore, and we spent a lot of time in Colorado developing our processes. We were looking at world-class athletes all the way down to stay-at-home moms that were really challenged. And here's the enigma. If we look at the basic science of how the body is metabolizing fat, we got to go through sources of fuel first. So the food that we're eating, your body is going to use that first. From then, it's going to go to muscle, store glycogen in the muscle and liver, and then from there, and only then, will it start to metabolize fat. So, one, food; two, glycogen levels in the store glycogen in the muscle and liver, and then it starts to burn fat. So this is the science of it. So if that's the science, then why do you have these enigma people who are eating 1,200 calories a day, who are doing an hour of cardio, 2 hours of cardio a day, and can't lose a pound? Does that sound familiar to anybody out there? If I deplete the food I ate and the glycogen stores in my muscles and liver, and then I tap into body fat, and that's the physiology and that's the science, then why doesn't the prescription of low cutthroat calories along with aggressive boot camp style fitness work? Why does that indeed, if you're measuring it accurately, if you have the method to measure it, and we've seen this 200 times at least, that this person is actually getting fatter. They're losing muscle tissue and getting fatter. They're not losing weight whatsoever. So this is the enigma. I've really spent a lot of time. My wife, Tiffany, Dr. Tiff, and I have spent just massive amount of time and money examining, and we really have come up with a methodology that we know and see from field testing. It works. It straight up just works. So I want to talk a little bit first about, if this is the goal, we're talking about how do I burn body fat and either sustain or have anabolic muscle tissue. I'm growing, my muscle tissue is increasing, even just by a little bit. If we look at that, we really want to break it into two things. A fitness prescription, what are you doing for exercise? And what are you doing for nutrition? And I want to spend the rest of this video just on the fitness portion, and then we'll come back and talk about nutrition at another time. So the first thing that I want to talk about with fitness is a principle called the GAS principle, the General Adaptation Syndrome. So I don't have a beautiful whiteboard to draw on, but I want you to think about basically a bell curve, okay? So a bell curve, left and right sides with a top. So once you begin to exercise, you're climbing up this bell curve, right? Your body is adapting neurologically, physiologically. Your body is using oxygen better. You're getting in better shape, and it's noticeable. It's the most noticeable your first 6 to 8 weeks. You're making incredible strength gains that you'll never make in that percentage of gain ever again. Hopefully you're starting to lose some weight. Some great things are happening. But all of a sudden, you've been doing this for 8, 10, 12 weeks, and you're at the top of that bell curve. Now, inevitably, if you keep doing the same thing, what's going to happen? This is correct. You're going to fall on the other side of that bell curve. The gains that you were making during the first 8 to 10, 12 weeks of that fitness regimen, that cycle, whatever it is that you were doing, whether it be low intensity fat burning or high intensity HIIT intervals, and we'll talk more about that too. It won't matter. You're going to have an adaptation, you're going to peak, and then you're going to drop off. To my fitness professional friends out there, this is something that just seems to be forgotten by and large. And what ends up happening is we as trainers, we in the fitness industry, and we do this a lot for marketing and business needs, and I think frankly, a lot of laziness out there where we just don't want to challenge ourselves and grow past what we like and what we don't like. What we have to look at is whether I believe in slow, fat-burning, working eccentric movement and or crazy HIIT training like CrossFit. It does not matter. If I do not change these variables, if I do not change and assign to my client a frequency and intensity level frequency that's changing, inevitably they'll end up on the other side of that bell curve. Let me say it again. If we don't change the intensity variables, including low intensity and high intensity and frequency, intensity variables, if we don't change them, inevitably we will end up on the other side of this bell curve and adaptation will stop. That's all there is to it. So whether you're doing a fitness class, you're doing CrossFit, you're working with a trainer, if you're doing the same shit day in, day out, and you've been doing this for quite some time, I'll clue you in, you are not making progress. You are not going to get there. You're on the other side of the bell curve and you're just wasting your time and probably hard-earned money at the same time. So if that's the case, if we look at what a lot of science is coming out as to what's the best recipe, what should I do to get my body to become a fat-burning machine and increase muscle. So I want to talk about two dimensions of fitness here, and this is probably going to rev a lot of people up. And once again, I want to come back and say that this is based not just on science, but we have done hundreds of tests at a university level where we are looking at the individual client and assigning different types of intensity variables with our fitness prescription, and we've seen a lot of different results. And what I've seen looks like this. If we look at the science that's coming out right now, we see everybody is moving toward the trend of HIIT interval training, high intensity interval training. And without getting too scientific about it, it's not just caloric expenditure during the session, it's what is happening at a cellular level in the mitochondria after the session. So HIIT training is amazing, and we apply it to our methodology. We recommend it for every single one of our clients. Now here's the problem. How many hits, and for how long should somebody be doing, and at what heart rate specifically should they be doing them in? Now, our metabolic testing tells us exactly where this person should be experiencing a HIIT interval. So somebody coming in for the first day that's never trained before, that shows up for CrossFit and does 100% max intensity for 30 minutes in a HIIT interval, what are the chances that they really truly are going to start working up that bell curve? It's not going to happen. What's going to happen is they're going to go flatline almost right away and probably start to decline within a week. The intensity variable, the dosage of exercise, it needs to be looked at as a dosage of stress. And every individual can handle that stress differently. So I don't want to just come out and blanket give every single person that walks in the door 100% heart rate max, or what they think their heart rate max is, and think that they're going to get somewhere with it. Probably most of them you're just going to break them. It's just not going to happen. So number one, if I'm doing HIIT interval training, I need to know specifically, what are my heart rates? What is my max heart rate? For instance, if I use just age minus 220, I would never get my heart rate up near enough to get anything out of that. So I know exactly through metabolic testing where my maximum intensity variables really are. So when I set up my HIIT interval, I know exactly where I'm at all times, and of course we're tracking it. So it's not that HIIT is not the greatest thing since sliced bread. It does a lot of amazing things. I want to make sure you understand that it's how many times, how many hits in the course of a week should somebody be experiencing. And if it's all you're doing day in, day out, it's catastrophic. And I will tell you straight up that we have several CrossFit, competitive CrossFit athletes that are training with us right now and doing nutrition with us specifically, that are obese, that are training at max heart rate intensity an hour and a half every day, and are obese. It's not a simple math problem of calories in and calories out. There's a lot of metabolic factors that are going into this that we'll cover in other videos. So the other side, the flip side to HIIT training would be what I would call, or what everybody calls steady state, or the fat burning zone. So we see people in this camp also where if you're in HIIT, you're just burning sugars, you're probably catabolizing muscle tissue, so we'll only stay in the fat burning zone. And all the great things are happening if we're just doing 60 to 75% max heart rate. So there's truth there. There's truth in HIIT. There's truth in low intensity training. I think the key component that's missing is the interval word. For instance, we've seen science come back about HIIT being so much more effective than steady state training in new exercisers. What we haven't seen, or I haven't personally seen, if anybody has this study, please send it to me because I haven't seen it. We recommend low intensity interval training days and high intensity interval training days. The difference is steady state, where I'm stuck at a certain heart rate and I'm there the whole time, and what we give people, which is a variable of low intensity training where we know they're predominantly in the fat burning zones, and a high intensity day where we know they're predominantly in a sugar burning zone. Two main fuel sources. So the key here is intervals. And it's intervals based on what your heart rate individually needs. So let me say it differently. What your metabolism really needs. And what we use as the tool to try to help us coach that or guide you through a session is your heart rate, your specific zones where this is happening, not based on 220 minus age, which is just ridiculous, and I don't want to go down that road today. That's a different blog. So HIIT versus steady state. It's neither one or the other. It's a mix of all these, and at the heart of it is interval training and also intensity variables such as time, where we really recommend 30 minutes max. You start looking at hours, and I will show you categorically fat burning metabolism is actually going down. You're catabolic, you're burning off muscle tissue and just wasting a lot of time. So, it can be argued, but once again, it's what we see in the field every single day coming back. People getting results from our prescription as opposed to coming from sitting on the treadmill for an hour. So I want to kind of talk a little bit further about these two energy systems, fat burning and sugar burning. I think what people are not understanding, and I didn't understand until we started doing the metabolic testing, and we're actually looking at the substrate usage. We're looking at how a person is burning sugar, how they're functioning and burning sugar, and at what heart rates are they predominantly burning sugar, and also fat burning. I never really understood until I could see it actually happening, and it was charted out how this person was metabolizing both. And energy systems is really at the heart of fat metabolism. So I think it's important to understand that when most people talk about steady state or fat burning zone, they see it as a fixed number. They see it as go do your hour at 110 and that's your fat burning zone and blah, blah, blah. And then maybe their max heart rate, 220 minus age or whatnot, that these are fixed. What you need to understand is that that is inaccurate. That through correct training, I can increase my fat burning metabolism. I can increase my body's ability to use fat as fuel at higher heart rates. And I can also increase the amount on the other side of sugar burning as well. Both of these fuel systems are working together, and I can make both efficient if I understand where my body spends the most time, where I've been training, where I'm most efficient, where I'm least efficient, and how I can make those better. And this is at the heart of our metabolic test. So if we look at somebody like a Lance Armstrong, perfect example. And for those of you who haven't been to Denver, Colorado, it's just think about it being perfectly flat, and then you hit the Rocky Mountains out of nowhere. And I use that as an example, even though we're in Nashville, because it really will kind of help you understand the categorically the difference between one person's efficiency and another. So let's just say Lance and I are in a bike race, and we start in Denver, and we're biking across, we're biking to Vail in the Rocky Mountains. And as we're biking, Lance is burning 90% fat all the way up to his anaerobic threshold. So Lance has been burning fat the whole time we're just biking cross country. We haven't even gotten into the mountains yet where I need all these sugars, right? I'm somewhere around 50-50. I'm burning 50% fat to 50% sugar, right? We both get to the foothills at the same time and start climbing up these mountains where I really need these sugar stores, where I'm going anaerobic. But I burn 50% of them on the way to the mountains. Lance never even got into that fuel tank yet. So when we get to the mountains and I need that sugar to climb those mountains, I've burned half of it at least, if not more, and Lance hasn't even started. So when you look at the performance level of a conditioned athlete like Lance Armstrong, and you can see his fat metabolism is at a high rate, 70, 80, 90% burning fat at almost max heart rate, whereas the rest of us are burning 80, 90% sugars at max heart rate. Not until he gets anaerobic or crosses that line where he's 100% sugar burning does Lance stop burning fat as fuel. This is what people are missing when we're talking about intensity variables. Which is better? You've got two fuel tanks, and both need to be optimized. Both need to be optimized. I want to be a better, more fat-burning, more efficient fat-burning machine. I don't want to get a place where it's just stagnating, or I'm always doing the same thing at the same heart rate, thinking I'm burning fat, and my body's adapted to it long ago. There's nothing happening. I'm on this side of the bell curve. There's always adjustments that need to take place and need to happen. So that's kind of an introduction to this big quagmire question that we wanted to start our vlog sessions with, and I hope that there's some challenging in your thinking process about how this fat burning, fat metabolism is really happening. How are we training? Am I training appropriately? And how can I change it? And I hope it opens up a forum, a discussion forum that we can continue to build on. We will be systematically coming in and doing more blogs as we go, or vlogs, talking about this subject, and what we'll try to do is to come in and look at every single piece of this. We'll look at metabolism, we'll look at fat burning over sugar burning, energy systems, different intensity variables, different approaches to fitness training, not just weight training, but fitness training in general, and trying to help people better understand this incredible eight-headed beast. So I hope you guys enjoyed it, and welcome to Studio 2. Thanks.